Let us execute an immediate, sweeping analytical vector shift away from small-town cold case excavation, true crime podcasting subversion, and the suburban deception-slicked containment zones of missing person networks, and plunge straight into the high-octane, calculation-heavy tracking grids of maximum security prison ward infiltration, weaponized high-density medical alignment loops, and the fiercely protective, dangerously fragile world of an endangered institutional nurse asset running a raw tactical survival loop. We are crossing the threshold directly into the hyper-monitored, paranoia-slicked parameters of a scorched, razor-wire-wrapped correctional ecosystem, exploring the lethal analytical parameters of a devastating, mind-shattering deception matrix with The Inmate, the exceptional pulse-pounding domestic thriller masterpiece engineered by the absolute undisputed global sovereign of breathtaking institutional secrets, double-blind identity traps, and high-velocity relational friction, Freida McFadden. This high-stakes narrative tracking sequence delivers an exceptional look at an operational crossroads, where an endangered primary medical asset running an unyielding truth extraction loop, a calculating, manipulative shadow network of incarcerated psychopathic masterminds running an elite proximity tracking and modern world erasure routine, and an absolute defense against a terrifying, concrete-locked prison containment zone collide at terminal velocity. Let us map the strategic narrative grid. If you are an elite enthusiast of high-octane, slow-burn psychological journeys, where an endangered, hyper-observant female protagonist must navigate an absolute maze of regged institutional rules, corrupt corporate cellblock exploitation campaigns, and a deadly ring of active personal identity frame-ups while running a blind survival loop inside a completely compromised correctional ecosystem, where an analytical mind uses deep behavioral profiling, calculated prison yard boundaries, and absolute emotional stamina to outmaneuver an invisible predatory executioner asset, weaponizing correctional technology mechanics, and where the author utilizes an incandescent single mother returns to her hometown to work as a nurse in a maximum security prison, where the ex-boyfriend she put away for murder is waiting for her with a fatal retaliation plan, diagnostic routine to test our hero's structural limits. This book is engineered to lock you in. McFadden completely dominates the high-precision cell-block jeopardy meets suffocating identity erasure puzzles, dynamic, capturing the heart-racing intellectual momentum, suffocating institutional paranoia, and heavy deductive depth popularized by genre vargs like Gillian Flynn, Lucy Foley, B.A. Paris, and Sally Hepworth, while treating realistic medical wing logistics, complex, dark possessive loyalty arcs, and protective high-density isolation extraction grids with absolute technical mastery. The narrative tracking grid zeroes in on the highly volatile, calculation-heavy baseline of our central legendary powerhouse medical asset, operating under a severe, calculation-heavy handicap of a total loss of external safety networks, absolute physical eye liquidation logs, and a hyper-visible targeting canvas within a harsh penal institution's localized database. Behind our protagonist's rigorous medical footprints, defensive conversational shields, and sharp observation metrics lies an intricate matrix of hidden structural vulnerabilities, deeply buried past timeline high school conditioning, and sharp, high-stakes tactical maneuvers. Her collective defense mechanisms are locked down tight following an abrupt career transition sequence, her entire analytical focus strictly consumed by monitoring sudden threat vectors from an encroaching cell block predation and internal guard threat network, parsing complex behavioral shifts in her daily clinical interaction loops, and shielding her vulnerable personal sovereignty node from being entirely wiped out by a ruthless systemic cleanup offensive. The spark ignites when an unexpected high-frequency structural anomaly breaches her active scanning perimeter. After accepting a critical staff placement assignment inside the high-security perimeter of Brunner State Correctional Facility, our primary asset registers a total security breach when the inmate population initializes an irregular psychological onboarding sequence, systematically tracking her arrival logs, matching her identity coordinates, and forcing her into a proximity tracking matrix with her former high school lover, Shane Nelson. Behind Shane's pristine, smooth civilian facade and elite behavioral mapping style lies an intricate matrix of severe ideological warfare and a cold, calculation-heavy target containment blueprint. As the hostile adversarial investigation phases enter an increasingly lethal terminal tier across a ticking clock timeline, the unauthorized discovery of missing evidence files, hidden high school witness testimonies, and lost internal guard rotation sheets reveals that her entire placement was an explicitly engineered trap. The standard boundaries of routine clinical courtesy and peaceful institutional compliance protocols crumble, and our central protagonists run completely out of standard diplomatic escape vectors. She is thrust directly into an active, invisible war behind closed prison ward walls, where a highly manipulative psychological gaslighting matrix launches aggressive countermeasures to permanently suppress her survival data stream and execute her complete systemic erasure.
The tactical parameters instantly explode as their historical and survival warfare turns completely acted, transforming the large prison yards, dark concrete visitation booths, and private fortified residential rooms into a volatile psychological pressure cooker and a physical battle zone. Our protective, hyper-vigilant heroine is forced to deploy her massive intuitive tradecraft, elite behavioral mapping skills, and raw physical stamina to preserve her focus before her adversary's relentless, calculation-heavy proximity containment phase permanently deletes her boundaries. The threat vector remains purposeful and resolute, determined to deploy deep sensory manipulation loops, continuous psychological gaslighting by inmate communication networks, and persistent dominance to shatter her defense, only to realize how hardened survival protocols and shifting counter-narratives match their opponent's raw tactical step for step. Every midnight archival excavation of ancient court hearing documents, every silent choice to stand off against an encroaching apex predator behind standard structural barriers, and every intense moment of channeling raw, unyielding survival mechanics chips away at her reliance on original peaceful rules. What follows is an exceptional, high-stakes war of perspective, tactical position, and raw human grit. We watch the Predator Network's deceptive perimeters completely unwrapped as Freida McFadden reveals that the true victory requires more than just surviving an initial cell block ambush or managing an invasive internal audit. It demands an absolute, uncompromising defense of individual dignity, personal truth, and systemic survival against a cold, calculating machine of correctional manipulation and primal supremacy. While our central characters smooth over each other's psychological and defensive blind spots with devastating analytical force, creating a fiercely protective, absolute web of dark possessive loyalty around their building survival alliance, a brutal series of close-quarters tactical confrontations and high-stakes evidentiary breakthroughs shifts the clock into its terminal phase, proving that deep-seated obsession has tracked them to their final outpost. To survive the impending locked grid trap and permanently secure her sanctuary, our resilient protagonist must unleash an absolute, unyielding defense of her final boundary lines. It is a psychological thriller, institutional captivity noir, cell block medical mystery, high-velocity contemporary puzzle masterpiece that treats deep relational logistics and intense structural friction with elite precision. The tension here burns with a sharp, calculation-heavy intensity. We are talking about that high-frequency, one unlocked cell block gate triggers a fatal ward showdown energy, where a sudden pause during an active franchise tactical briefing, an unexpected shift in an adversary's protective physical posture during a high-stakes standoff confrontation, or a heavy, possessive realization that an elite intelligence operative has completely mapped your personal coordinates carries massive structural weight. McFadden writes with an exceptionally fresh, vivid, and beautifully blunt voice, perfectly capturing the heavy, oppressive atmosphere of a private executive vault before a major corporate takeover, and the distinct, subtle scent of polished mahogany, citrus cleaning bleach, cold steel cell bars, institutional floor wax, dark adrenaline, and pure, unadulterated suspense. What truly elevates this contemporary franchise installment marvel into elite territory is the author's unmatched ability to balance complex, high-stakes relationship dynamics and genuine protective power tradecraft alongside a breathtaking narrative pace and deep emotional hooks. Our protagonists don't rely on unbelievable, superficial Hollywood hero action tropes. Their immense situational intelligence, strategic patience, and profound survival instincts match the complexity of the chaotic modern corporate and high society underworld they dominate step for step, making their choices to risk everything feel profoundly authentic and deeply gripping. The pacing moves with calculated momentum, tracking intense conversational standoffs and breathtaking tactical breakthroughs before ratcheting up to an absolute jaw-dropping conclusion that delivers total, hard-earned advancement to their horizon. The Inmate, a gripping psychological thriller, is the definitive pro-level upgrade your high-stakes contemporary thriller and intense asset suspense library demands right now. It is elegant, immensely fast-paced, and utterly unputtable. It proves that when your entire sanctuary is targeted by a cold, calculating institutional monster, the most revolutionary play you can execute is to lock your perimeters, trust your elite survival training, and fight like hell alongside your network to rewrite the data. So, secure your personal reading sanctuary, review your emotional defensive perimeters, open your Kindle, and prepare to track the fleet.